6 o'clock.
And our lights are
Here
on.
we go.
We're ready to go?
Here we go.
All right, call this meeting to order, this workshop, and will you all join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we've got 2 items on the agenda for this workshop. The first is the board's debrief from the Maine School Management Association Annual Fall Conference, which we just attended last week on Thursday and Friday in Augusta. So we're going to keep it brief, but highlight the high points. And who would like to start? Jamie.
Jamie. Okay, sure. Okay, so I guess first of all, it was really interesting for me as my first time, so I did feel like I learned a lot. A couple of the sessions I went to were some different perspectives on how schools handle cell phones, which was very interesting. It was kind of a nice, one of the schools actually brought some students in, so it was really nice to hear some perspectives from teenagers that are living some choices that the schools are making and how that works for them.
And how are those students reacting to it?
Actually, the students that were there were actually they said it was surprisingly, I think it was harder for adults and staff to kind of adjust to the changes than the students.
Mm-hmm.
They said they actually were talking to each other, they were talking to their teachers and things that they, one of the kids said it was the week of hello, which I thought was kind of an interesting thing because they were walking and actually like looking at people and
Yeah.
okay. So it was interesting.
Can I jump in there? 'Cause
Yeah,
I went to
yes,
the
tell
same,
you
the
that, yeah.
same session, but what I loved was they're like, you know what, our cafeterias, like kids actually talk to each other now. They brought back like games.
There's noise level in the cafeteria now.
Yeah,
That's
there's
what they
From
said.
the
It's
conversation.
noisy,
people are
but in a
talking
good way.
to each other, and for the kids to be like, you know what, it's actually really good for me.
I know.
I feel good about it.
Yeah. No,
It was a tough start.
yes.
But sorry.
Tough start. No, that was.
Well, change is always hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those were interesting. I went to another session about school board policies, so that was another great one, particularly for me to hear kind of what our role is versus what we do with Amy and Nikki, and a couple others that were with Drummond, and we kind of a little more technical stuff there. So that's been all for me, I guess.
Okay. Brad, do you want to go next?
Sure. I also went to several law-related ones with Drummond and with some. They also were very informative on a lot of the cultural things that are going on today. Several different things, with like Title IX, and that people need to remember that we make policies, not laws, as being school department and being school board, and that we just need to just pay attention to just close local things, but yet that we can't change a lot. We are who we are, and we have to just kind of accept some things, but just to clear some people's questions on that, because funding is such a thing that each school needs to be taken into account. They can't across the board take away our funding if people are thinking that each school is looked at singularly, not as groups. So I think that was a good eye-opening kind of just comment that I heard them make. So that was good. Several of those were good. What else did I go to? I went to an attendance one, which has been obviously a big topic of conversation for everyone. And it's kind of the same old things on making sure that your atmosphere is welcoming, and that our principals are the first faces that everybody sees, and that they actually set the climate for the school and just create culture. What's important to our principals, no matter what it is also what's important to the school and to the community and whatever, be it literacy, be it sports, be it the attendance or whatever. That's just sort of what becomes the face of the schools. What else? And bringing back, they were very big in bringing back family-related activities at all levels. You know, bring back the Halloween costume parades, bring back spaghetti dinners, bring back science fairs and projects, all the dances, the bake sales, like just bring in your community, like because we've all taken kind of a step back from being together over the past few years, which clearly has made us divided. And they were like, you need your community to be more on board with each other all the time. This piece of hair is driving me crazy. What else? Went to school safety one, which was just really like some restorative justice practices in our schools, and talking about, you know, expulsions and suspensions, and like where sometimes we could overreact to something that's small, but because it's been the culture to just like remove the situation immediately because it's easier, that sometimes you can't do that, and you need to kind of get to the root of like why it's a problem in the first place. So yeah, like all in all, though, great conference. I felt like it was really well done, like brought back like for the first time that I
It was
went.
one of the
Like, it was-
better ones that I've been to.
It was great.
It was
I
really
always
good.
get a lot
Yeah.
out of this conference.
Yeah.
But yeah, once again, it was great. So the cell phone session that I went to was probably one of the sessions that I came out of with the most. But a couple others that were really great. I went to a session on financing capital projects, and I learned a lot. Nothing interesting that anyone wants to hear about, but it was very informative. Like, I learned a lot about how bonds work and the different projects, how different projects get funded, and they're all different, whether they're major capital or equipment or minor capital, and that was really interesting. And then I went to a couple others on negotiations, and I also went to one on the annual salary and benefit study that we have access to. And
Yes.
I didn't realize like
That's what I
how in
use.
depth that we can get down to the nitty gritty
Oh, yeah.
of salaries all over the state.
Oh, yeah.
So this was really interesting as well. So I'm looking forward to digging into that.
Thank you, Kelly.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I thought this was one of the better conferences I've been to, and I've been to, I think, 8 in person plus 2 remote. The remote ones, I don't want to do that again, but in person is the way to go. I took 3, they're called clinics, they're like an hour or so long. Each session has about 8 or 9 of these, so you can choose which ones you want to see. Sometimes it's kind of agonizing because there's 3 that you want to go to, and they're all in the same hour, so you can't go to all 3, but that's what the benefit of having 4 of us there, plus Amy, plus Nikki,
And Kate?
And
plus
Katie.
Katie. I did, first of all, the keynote speaker was great. His name was Joe Sanfilippo. He has written several books. I think he no longer is, but was a superintendent out in Wisconsin, but he told some amazing stories about his time there and building up the support from the community and the support within the school district towards all the people, towards each other and towards their students. He talked really fast, but not so fast that you couldn't follow along, but it was hard to take notes. But I did write down 3 words: recognize, acknowledge, extend. And he said when you're talking about your staff and how to make them feel good about being there, you recognize something that they did, you acknowledge it, and then you extend it by acknowledging it to someone else, other people within the building or the organization who will then help spread the word. And then I was so impressed by his keynote speaker thing that I went to his clinic in the next hour called Changing the Narrative, and that was also really good. And you were there, right?
I did, yeah, it was very good, and I've not usually gone to
Yeah,
the
same here.
keynote speaker's second
never
one,
have.
and he was very good.
I never have. And Bev said some things about that. I took also a collective bargaining workshop. It was a different one than the one Katie went to. Kelly went to. Sorry. And it was really good. It was called Collective Bargaining Tips and Tricks, but the title didn't really do justice because it's really not about the average. The 2 attorneys who taught it, one of them was a former teacher, They really emphasize building trust with the association that you're bargaining with, and understanding the issues ahead of time that are likely to come up, because a lot of those issues can be solved outside of the collective bargaining process. And so building relationships, building trust, and understanding the issues were key things. There was a whole lot of nitty-gritty stuff, too. Took a clinic on student violence in school law. That was interesting. A lot to say about that, but I'm not going to go into it now. But First Amendment in public meetings, this is mainly about the public participation part of the meeting. And I feel like now I have some really good, at our school board meetings, I can have something in front of me that helps. We've had really easy meetings in the last year since I've been chair, but we might not always have easy meetings, and there might be stuff to manage there, which hopefully I'll be better prepared to do so. Took a clinic on legislative, interacting with your legislators on education issues. That was really great. The one clinic that I thought really moved me the most was called Creating a Restorative Code of Conduct, and that was led by Dr. Stacy Barlow, who's a psychologist, and she's the Restorative Practices Coordinator for the Maine School Safety Center, which is part of the Department of Ed. And what Restorative Practices seeks to do is instead of the retributive approach to addressing student misbehavior, it's the restorative approach. So instead of what rules are broken, who did it, how to punish them, it's what harm was done and to whom was it done. What are the needs and obligations of all the people involved, and how to repair the harm. And when this program is introduced into schools and it's established, it tends to really reduce the numbers of suspensions, the numbers of expulsions. It helps create a better positive climate all around. Kids are nicer to each other, they're nicer to their teachers, everything works better. So they offer, the department offers training on this, and it's very extensive training. It's a commitment to sign up for it, but they're happy to come to any school that wants to do this, and I'm sure we can talk more about that as we go on. And of course, I should mention also the vendors who were at the conference. It was great. We got a lot of good things from the vendors, and it was nice to see the people from EMC, Energy Management Consultants, who are leading the project, a lot of projects in our district right now, including new windows and heating systems and a whole bunch of other things. And it's just a really great company. And that's all I'll say for now. Amy, do you want to report?
Sure. I agree. I think it was probably the best MSMA conference that I've been to. Granted, it hasn't been many, but I thought it was really good. I thought a lot of our sessions that most of us attended were right in line with our strategic plan and some of the goals of that. Mm-hmm. The brand, Nikki and I have talked a lot about before the conference, and since then we've already met with Katie and Tyler about our brand. Mm-hmm. And how we're going to keep upping our game with the Ellsworth Way and making sure that we flood our community with the Ellsworth Way and how the Ellsworth School Department does things and some ideas that we have around that, which really lends itself to recruitment and retention mm-hmm. of staff. I did a couple of different sessions on that were very good. Went to a really good collective bargaining presentation that a superintendent and assistant superintendent in Southern Maine did that I thought was really very well done. A couple of clinics that I went to, very much talking about different ways to approach social, emotional, and mental health concerns that schools are feeling, and the press and the pressures that come with trying to educate students that have those. Funny enough, one of the sessions that I thought was really good that kind of helped me organize some things I've been feeling about our system was called, finding efficiencies basically in operations, which is a part of our strategic plan, oddly enough, and trying to look at your different departments and your programming across schools and really concisely start looking at how can we find efficiencies, where are there replications of things to find cost savings. So that was really good. And then there was some really good pre-K PD that looked at different ways to help finance the needs that come with pre-K, how to build different ways for pre-K, different types of collaborations you consider with universal pre-K, and how that's going to look when you have to transition by 27, 28 to assuming FAPE for all 3 and 4-year-olds. And so being able to listen to some of the school district's journeys of how that's gone well, how it hasn't gone well, how they're helping fund those things, was really good. So overall, and I guess the speaker was phenomenal. He was really good. So it was definitely inspiring. It definitely can be overwhelming to come back and think about all the things and trying to have time to like really dig in and do some of it. But it was really good, I thought.
Right.
You'd have to go to the podium. We need a podium for you at the table.
Don't give me a special microphone over there.
Yeah, we got plenty.
I always enjoy the conference too. Another piece that I really enjoy is the networking. Maine is a big, small state, and so it's great to meet up again or meet new people that do the same roles or similar roles, or chat with other board members and people in different communities and talk about, what they're dealing with or what they're working on, which oftentimes are the same things that we are. And sometimes, we feel like we're working really hard and we have some of the work or problems that we're facing. It feels like you're alone. And when you go to an event like that, you realize, we're not alone. We're on par with what's happening in our educational landscape. And I do have people that I can continue to reach out with or to across the state, all the way up through, I had the Commissioner of Education in one of my chatting groups on one of the days. So it was really nice to kind of have that connection with people in our field. I went to several of the sessions that were mentioned, but 2 other pieces that I thought I would mention. I went to one that was really strong on school safety. And so, as you know, we've been working on our emergency plan. And so it was really great to learn about what is being recommended, which we do have. And then I got a lot of other pieces to think about and to talk to everybody about too, about what we should maybe also be thinking about kind of capping off, adding. Specifically, reunification is a big topic. When we think about emergencies, and especially, the big emergencies that we hope never happen, we talk about training and actions and things that we're going to do in the moment. And we know what we're going to do when we head to reunification, but really reunification is one of the things that is very difficult, even if it was a fire or a very tragic incident. It doesn't really matter what it is, but it's oftentimes where chaos happens. And so I got a lot of food for thought about that for us to think about and talk about with our leadership team about really what does that look like. And even in the clinic, they mentioned that we should be practicing some of that, maybe not in the same location that we might do in the event of different scenarios, but we should be practicing with parents what would happen in a reunification scenario. So you're going to come in, you're going to check in at this table, we line up, those types of things. So things to think about that. And then also AI. There was a lot of AI sessions, and I attended 2 that were really strong. Learned a lot about practice, but also really about what AI is and how AI works, which I haven't really thought about. It does its thing, but learn more about actually how it works and what it can do and how it predicts things and gives you information, and why we need to be careful of some of that, obviously, because it's not always 100%. So those were 2 really strong hallmarks from what I attended, beyond some of the ones that you guys mentioned. Thanks.
Thank you.
Can I just add to yours, Amy, about the speaker and talking about branding our organization? I had that written down too. I was going to add that in, but proclaim your mission statement and live it. Actually, just do everything you can to go by what we say we stand for, and brand equals recognition, which you all want to be recognized for everything. But creating our culture, because when you create a culture, it creates trust. So people want to trust us, which I believe they are. I think we're on a good roll right now. Like, I love everything that we're doing and the brand that we're becoming
Getting there.
even more.
Getting there.
We've grown a lot over the past few years, that's for sure.
Yes, we have.
Katie, would you like to come up?
She thought she was getting away with that.
Katie, welcome to our party.
They're like, Dana, they're all stressed.
We saved the best for last.
No, thanks. So I also got a lot out of the leadership sessions. Also went to the speaker after the keynote. His was really good, and again, a lot about brand and just tips for leadership across the board. I went to some cybersecurity ones, which was low attendance for probably any session there. There were a good 4 of us in that session, but it was good. It, just reinforcing things that we were working on. And then I went to several AI sessions, again, which were kind of felt like we're on the right track with what we're doing. Still lots to learn and lots for all of us to learn, and all of our teachers and our students, but some good tools and resources to help educate our teachers and our families and students, free resources that are out there, so that we can dig in and get out to families. Yeah, it was really good. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thanks, Katie.
Awesome.
All right.
Can I just add one more thing? Just quick. This was just, I just saw my notes, but so the cell phone session that I went to, this district, they have a 50% reduction in suspensions since they have put in their new policy that is bell to bell. It's just, they take, all day long. There's no gas on the fire all day. That's all. I'm done.
No, thank you for sharing.
You're
that.
welcome.
That's important. That's an important thing to know.
We all have a lot of info, we just can't get it all
There's
out.
so
It's not
much.
enough time.
I know.
It's not enough time.
I know.
We do need just a time maybe to
To
sit
debrief
down and
together,
just
yeah.
chat.
We can certainly do this more
Yeah.
for again. But we are going to dig into data. Are you ready?
Yeah, ready for data.
Okay. So just to kind of set the stage for the public and for the team, we have done this now for a couple of years, doing a data presentation. We are now on a schedule where we can share with you fall to spring data. So this presentation is examining the 24-25 school year data, so that everyone is clear about that. You have the data report that was linked to the agenda last week. And then you also have a copy of the slideshow that you're going to see tonight, so you can have both things available to you if you want. Just to kind of talk a little bit about format and outline of the presentation, we are going to kind of set the stage with what our enrollment and district data was for 24-25 in terms of our population. Then we will go into some of our district-wide data. What are some of the things that we are proud of that we accomplished in 24-25 as a district? Then we'll go into Ellsworth High School and EEMS, and then talk a little bit about special education, and then close. We purposely are not having HCTC and adult education present their data tonight. It's too much. You gave us that feedback last year. Way too much, important, too rushed. So we will do adult education and Hancock County Technical Center as like special presentations, either at regular board meetings or at another workshop. We'll layer those in so that everybody kind of gets the time that they deserve when doing this. So to start, we do want to look at, just to kind of give you a snapshot of our enrollment data. This is information you had last year after the October 1 counts. But to kind of frame our conversation, you'll see that 24-25, October 1, we were at 1236, which was a drop, which in talking to superintendents across the state, everyone's enrollment is starting to go down for a variety of reasons. Aging, but also more and more people are pulling students for homeschool instruction. So we are a community that has gone down in enrollment over time. Last year, we were at 1236. I think it's really important as we look at data, one of the things that the state looks at for us is subgroups. And as we get better as a school department and our staff digs into data more, one of the things we really dig into is subgroups so that we can help understand the supports and interventions that we need. So multi-language learners, formerly some people thought English as a second language, ESL, the alphabet soup, they talked a lot about at our conference last week. You will see that the last couple of years, our numbers have risen in the 20s. And that is, we have over a dozen different languages being spoken in our schools now. It's very, very widespread. Economic status, we talked a lot about this last year. You're gonna see a jump in this again for 25-26. Our economically disadvantaged status has risen. We saw a huge jump. So 2 years ago, we had 364 students that were economically disadvantaged. Now, as of last year, that was at 536 children. So that is an enormous jump over time and definitely is a part of our picture as a school department. Couple that with students that are qualify under what's called McKinney-Vento, which is the Homeless Assistance Act. You will see that too, 2 years ago, we had 25 students. Last year, we were at 51. So students with unstable homes and don't have a consistent bed to sleep in. So that definitely paints the picture for our student population. And so now Nikki's gonna jump into some of our district-wide reading data.
Perfect. I also just want to mention one thing about the multi-language learners, just a piece of information. I've shared it with my leadership team, but Waterville, in a recent meeting, a colleague of mine in Waterville, so that's not too far away, that's not Lewiston or Portland, that's kind of right down the road. 2 years ago, they were at our numbers. I think they were at 17, 21, something like this. They had one staff member just like we do. This year, they have 117 students. So within
Wow.
2 years, that is the jump that they have made. And they talked about secondary population moves. So these are people who have not just come to the United States. They came to the United States to places like Arizona or Michigan, and now they're settling in areas of Maine in big groups and populations. So I do foresee this population to continue to rise. We did settle down a little bit, and that's essentially one family probably that has come or gone. But we should keep an eye out for that, just on all fronts. Likely one teacher is not going to be able to handle that caseload for too many more years. So moving on to assessment data, achievement data in math and literacy, I just want to start by saying we have a couple of different data points that it's really handy to have now, because we start to see a more comprehensive picture of how we're doing across our grade levels and over time. So essentially we do provide two sets of assessments for students. One is a required assessment, and it's really, for most grades, it's not all grades, but for most grades it's the NWEA, and that is called the through year test. And that, again, that's a required assessment for grades 3 through 8 and 10. When you take that, though, it provides us with what's called NWEA map growth information. This is the national data bank, essentially, for NWEA, which we do find a lot of merit in. So you're running one assessment for students, but essentially they run the NWEA map growth, and then at the end of the year in the spring, Maine has contracted with NWEA to create like a second add-on that gives the state a readout of if students are at or above grade level according to Maine state standards. So we do one assessment and we get two different data points, which we feel good about, kind of learning more about where we stand statewide, but also amongst the national ranking of students who are those ages. And then you have also heard me talk about our rollout of what's called FastBridge, which is a local assessment that we use, a platform that we use in grades K through 11, this year grades K through 12. But that also really allows us to dig a little deeper into literacy and mathematics performance. So I'm going to go through some of those pieces of information for you today. So here we have our just NWEA map growth. So again, this is kind of just that national level information. And you can see from fall to spring, we did have an increase of 3% last year. And although we would love to have higher percentiles in literacy, 60 and 63% still are pretty strong. I think across the state, there's very few school districts that are in, the 70s and 80%. So we're, as you know, we're working really hard on literacy, but this is a good graph of the grade levels and the growth. And to have 63% average at the end of last year district-wide is a pretty strong number overall at or above grade level. So then moving on to that add-on for the state of Maine that really gives the state data, and obviously it gives us the information as well. That through-year section, which is used as the main educational assessment, they create their own cut scores. So this is not going, even though many of the questions are literally it's the same test and the students have only done one set of questions, Maine has created a panel of teachers and looked at all of the questions and provided a series of cut scores so that students are ranked into categories which are well below state average, below state average, at state average, or above state average. And so these, in this graph here, I have the data from the last 3 years, so you can see. So purple is 3 years ago, blue is 2 years ago, and then the green is the work from last year. You can see that there are some inconsistencies, and part of that is because you're having different cohorts come through, like third moves to fourth and fourth moves to fifth. So it's not just one set of kids that you're looking at unless you start to jump up the grade levels with that percentile. But generally, most bars are improving. They are moving up over time, and generally, as you can see, last year in the spring, district-wide in the grade levels that are assessed, that you can see there, we had a 67% average of students who are at or above grade level. And that is up from the year before that we had this percentile of 64% of students at or above grade level. So again, an improvement that we like to see continue to creep up. FastBridge, again, was a new assessment for us last year, so teachers and students were learning about how to take it and maybe how to take it seriously, but it certainly provides us a lot of information. FastBridge does not assess the exact same information that the NWEA does. It gives us a lot more nitty-gritty or detailed information about, for example, reading and early reading. It measures phonics. It measures a lot of different specific pieces about the content area. So you can see here we have a lower average percentage. We have 50% achievement rate across grades K through 11. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not a strong number. I think for the first year doing that assessment, that's still a pretty strong number. You can see kind of over time, like students in the spring in the early grades are a little bit lower, and then they peak, and then they go lower again. We do have some hunches about why that graph looks like that, the bars look like that, from the fact that in early elementary, by the end of the year, they are really starting to measure some specific reading traits and tasks that students haven't done before. And then as we get to certainly grades 10 and 11, we're still trying to get that culture developed. And when we're in May and into June, sometimes students don't perform their best or try their best. So we are continuing to try to share with them the merit of this information, because it does help us instruct them and make plans for their learning path. Then moving on to math, so this is the same. We have the 3 different data points. We are lower performing in math than we are in literacy. And so we're really proud of the work that we've done in literacy over the last 3 years. But it certainly does speak to the fact that we need to start, really focusing on math as well. This year, for example, we've started a review process for textbooks in grades 6 through 12. We're going to start that conversation in K through 5 as well. We have had some strong PD, so we're starting to move the needle on that. We're just not as far ahead as we have been in literacy. So you can see performance is generally pretty flat, it's just lower. So last year, we started in the fall as a district average at 52%, and through the spring we did have a drop to 49%. And even, we just had a conversation 2 Fridays ago, I believe, with the 612 math team, thinking about programming and what our unit design and our scope and sequence looks like, because a lot of times we are not able to get through all of our content for a variety of reasons. Unfortunately, what that generally looks like year after year is that, Unit 7 or whatever it is, the geometry unit or the statistics unit that's at the end of every book, we don't get to. We don't get to it in 4th grade. And then we start over in 5th grade. And then by the end of 5th grade, we don't get to it either. Don't get to it in 6th. Or maybe we just pack in a little bit because it's the end of the year. So that does create a knowledge gap. And generally it is those 2 things that I'm talking about, is geometry and statistics, that students don't get continuously or enough of over time. So we're thinking about how to arrange our programming and unit design. We're thinking about, as we look at new curriculum or textbooks, we shouldn't be choosing something that has 180 days of instruction at 90 minutes each, because we don't have 90-minute classes for students and we don't have 180 days of instruction, especially when you think about snow days and pep rallies and all of the things. So really thinking about our math instruction just like we are with our reading. What are the components? What do we want students to know? And how can we dig in deeper to make sure that we're improving and moving the needle on that? So good conversations, and the data shows that we can certainly grow more. This is the main educational assessment, the through-year data, and this does show a lower result than the national result. So interestingly, the cut scores, and this is where it gets kind of funny in the state of Maine. So a team was developed of, English teachers and educators to create cut scores for the English test. A totally separate team of math teachers are created or brought together to create cut scores for the math test. Obviously that does make sense because they're looking at the questions and thinking about what does it look like for a 4th grader to meet grade level expectations in math versus in reading. But sometimes when you just look at those cut scores generally, they are way off because they are 2 different groups of people who have made 2 different sets of expectations. That doesn't necessarily define the reason why our scores are lower, but our scores statewide for math are lower than the exact same test and the same students and the same data from the national percentile. So that tells an interesting story about the cut scores for Maine, actually. I believe that they're really rigorous, which is great, but it doesn't really measure up the same way as our reading cut scores. So you can see here, we are kind of all over the board. We are growing in some grade levels, and then over time we also dip in some other ones. And that goes, again, back to the conversation where we're really starting to think about our programming, what components we have, what we don't have, what we need for training, and also our unit sequence. What are we missing? What do we do over and over again that we can maybe not do as much of so that we can fit some of the other pieces in? We did show growth, though, I will say. Over from spring of 2 years ago to spring of last year, we did, as you can see, district-wide as an average, we went from 42% to 46%. So we are moving the needle still. Just need to move it a little more. And then FastBridge, we're actually more consistent across the grade levels in our mathematics data, as you can see, as evidenced by the bar graphs here from grades K to 11. with a couple of grade levels lower certainly than the others. But as an average, this is also showing that district-wide we have about 49% achievement at or above grade level. And so we talk a lot about these percentiles, and we talk about this as real groups of kids or a room full of people. And we do want to and will move the needle on that. It doesn't feel okay for us to think about a classroom full of kids and split them in half and say these kids are at grade level. We've done everything we can for them and they are really strong mathematicians, and the other half isn't quite there yet. So we're looking at, as I just described, how to make that better. Questions on that? Would we want to do questions at the end? Questions at the end. Okay. All right. So then we have a section at the end of each one of our mini presentations kind of talking about and measuring what else matters. And so we really do want to note that for our students and for our teachers and for our leaders, things that we can quantify like attendance data or an assessment score from one Tuesday in May are not the only things that define our district as successful or not, and so we wanted to make sure we included this just like we did last year. So I'll just mention a few and then I'll pass it over to you, Mrs. Bowles, to add a few more. But certainly district-wide, there's two really big things that I would like to mention that we're really proud of from last year. The first would be our implementation of pre-K in our district. So as you know, we opened the 2 pre-K classrooms, which it was a culmination of a year's worth of work collaborating with daycare providers and centers across our county for over a year. That is a huge lift, and we're thankful for everybody who was a part of that process, and certainly the 2 teachers that lifted that off the ground for us last year. And then, as you know, through last year, we also did preparation to expand to 2 more classrooms in a completely different location, and there was so much planning that went into that. Which essentially now we do offer universal pre-K. Any student who wants free public pre-K in Ellsworth area does have access to that, which is incredibly huge for our community for years to come. So that's something that we should all be very proud of and that every community does not have. And then the other one that I wanted to highlight, which we have spoken about here before as well, is the receiving of the 21st Century Grant. That was a lot of hard work built upon after-school programs that we have started and summer programs that we have started. And through collaboration and partnerships, we created a very lengthy application and received over 4 years approximately $1 million coming into our district to provide after-school program, not just at EEMS, but now we have started one at EHS, and then also a secure foundation for Summer Academy at both of those locations. So again, that is huge. That not only helps our academics, but our well-roundedness, and it provides students a safe place to be. When you think back to those economically disadvantaged numbers or those McKinney-Vento numbers, those students oftentimes have nowhere to be, or they have no snack after school. You know, once they leave school, that's it for them. So this is a huge piece that provides them extra time in a warm, safe place. It provides them food. It gives them enrichment. We do all kinds of neat things. Provides them experiences that they may not get ever outside of here, but also they may not get in the classroom. So very, very proud of both of those things. And then I'll pass it over to you for something as well.
So last but not least, I would definitely say a big achievement last year was the strategic plan and us coming together as a full community to really define what we want our school department to look like moving forward, and having a lot of community input on that between surveys and community forums. I think that was a huge lift for leadership team and for that for our community, which we're going to present to City Council in about a month. So that was a lot of hard work, which certainly is going to drive our work moving forward. Having said that, the next section, I'm going to invite our 3 assistant principals from Ellsworth Elementary Middle School Mrs. Clifford is having some much-deserved time with her mother the last couple of days, but we know that the three of them are ready to roll. So please welcome Pre-K to 2 Assistant Principal Vince Alvello, Assistant Principal 3 through 5 Matt Wibberly, and grades 6 through 8 Lindsay Corson.
Hi, everyone. Appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit further about our data here today. What I'm going to be doing is jumping first into a little overview of our comprehensive needs assessment goals. And really this acts as the focus that we have for this past year, kind of what all our collective efforts went toward. It really focused on kind of aligning our goals to growth, engagement, and school climate. You're going to find that we had a goal that was set up focused on academic achievement and really focusing on seeing improvement, 10% improvement within math and 15% improvement within literacy as measured through our NWEA data as well as FastBridge data. We also had a goal that was focused on attendance, a 5% decrease in chronic absenteeism. The best way to be able to instruct and support students is ensure that they feel welcome and supported here at school. And by ensuring that that's something that's a real focus, we definitely can recognize the benefits that could have overall. And then last but not least, really focusing on our MTSS system, our multi-tiered system of supports, and really trying to increase our professional development as related to these identified areas, focusing on PBIS, curriculum, well-being, and looking for a 10% reduction in critical behavioral incidents, which would be noted based off of things such as suspensions. Transitioning now, we'll be talking specifically about literacy at EMS. And what you're going to see with our breakdown here is overall we had a 4% growth in literacy achievement comparing spring 24 to spring 25 in the NWA through year assessment. We also had more students who were meeting and exceeding expectations from one year to the next within those grade levels as well. One of the things that you are going to find is that this next slide that we'll have is going to go over further specifics, which talks a little bit about specifically the percent change within these identified grade levels. One thing I want to focus on specifically is the fact that we recognize, as mentioned previously, that each of these grade levels has different students each and every year. So I really want to highlight that because we're going to see a wide discrepancy amongst our percent change, but a couple of things really stand out. First is third grade. So seeing here that we have a 29% change in students at or above grade level is tremendous. And that's tremendous in particular as related to our knowledge of the science of reading and the importance of seeing those gains at the lower levels that would be able to really aid comprehension further on. And the fact that having that type of growth in that specific area is really, really wonderful to see when we think about our time spent with the science of reading and the amount of time and effort that's gone into training and professional development as related to that. We can also see that in grades 5 through 8, there's mostly stable or modest increases in those areas. And we do recognize that there was one grade level in particular that is certainly a focus that we have as related to that scope and sequence, as was a discussion earlier. But really, we see a really positive trajectory here, and there's a continuation of discussion as related to our Tier 1 instruction, as related specifically to literacy, and really the work of our MTSS coordinator and our instructional coach. We've already had our Tier 1 meetings, which is further targeted, specific instruction as related to those next steps and what further instruction looks like for those students. Transitioning now, we have our data that's broken down through FastBridge. And we do have mixed trends that are across the grade span. Growth is most evident in grades 5 through 7 that we see here. Things that are really important to note is that within the fall, we had 52% who were at or above grade level. When we transition over to the spring, we're at 64%. So we do see that nice growth and improvement there. Again, this really reflects success with our targeted reading supports and intervention alignment, as well as our consistency with kind of first utilizing that program throughout the course of last year. So again, some really strong growth. Things that I think are important to note is the fact that there is a lot of time and effort that has been focused specifically on literacy, and this is really going to be a slow process, a process to ensure that we're increasing our instructional awareness, and also ensuring that that is a process that is going to be built up. We're really going to see the ramifications of the work that we're doing little by little. That's going to continue to extend up in the grade levels as students expand on. And I'm going to now pass it off to Lindsay Gorson.
Hello. So I am presenting on the NWEA math data. And like Mrs. Chan said earlier, we really have focused on literacy, but our math still improved by 1.5%. But we didn't see the growth that we did in the literacy ones, in the literacy exam, because we honed in on literacy. So we are starting to make some math goals. We looked at FastBridge data 2 weeks ago and 3 weeks ago and all the grade levels, and really dug into literacy and math and set some really great tier 1 goals, which hopefully we will see the progress soon. A lot of the teachers are also doing progress monitoring to put specific goals on groups of kids, or on the whole tier actually right now. So we hope to see some progress very soon with the progress monitor feature of FastBridge. Now NWEA is just a snapshot, and it is just grades 3 through 8. And can you go to the next slide? Sorry about that. And here is the breakdown. We have a lot of successes. And I want to take note that last year, 7th grade had a 37% special ed population, and they still grew by 8% on their NWEA data, and we attribute a lot of that to the team teaching model that 7th grade piloted last year, where the special ed kids were in a classroom with a gen ed teacher and a special ed teacher, and they flew, they grew, and it was amazing to see, and I think that is one of the reasons for that big increase in that grade. And Vince is going to go over FastBridge.
Good evening, everyone. First time here, honored to do so. Very cool. Speaking of FastBridge, in math, the grades 6, 7 showed improvement, while other grades showed some decreases. Let not your heart be troubled. These indicate the areas where targeted instruction and intervention are needed. This again does not necessarily indicate that student math skills are declining, because earlier in the year, students score higher on initial screenings due to familiarity with basic computation or early grade level content. Again, FastBridge assessment becomes more challenging over time. And in this case, in the spring of 2025, however, spring 2025 scores represent a more accurate baseline of students' understanding. Thus, if we look, 58% of students showed grade level or above achievement in math in FastBridge, and 49% of students showed at or above grade level expectations in 25. And the district is really proud of the success rollout of FastBridge, and we're going to continue to use it to define instruction, strengthen Tier 1 practices, which are what they do in the classroom, and ensure all students are supported towards making grade level or above expectations moving forward. And now we'd like to talk about the attendance data. At EEMS, the goal by June 2025 was to have a 5% decrease in chronic absenteeism in grades K through 8,
which is measured by chronic absenteeism data documented at the end of 24-25, compared to 23-24 data. Now, what is chronic absenteeism? It's defined as a student whose total number of absences at any time during the school year is equal to or greater than 10% of the total number of days that the student has been enrolled that year. For 24-25, EMS reported a 12.83% chronic absenteeism for pre-K, and this is the first time pre-K data was included. There was a 30% chronic absenteeism rate for K through 4, which was an increase from 24.4%. However, in grades 5 through 8, we have 24% chronic absenteeism, which is a decrease from 28.9. Good news, we are now in a partnership with Count Me In. Their website is countmeinmaine.org, all lowercase, which is an initiative in Maine that uses data-driven and supportive approach to combat chronic absenteeism. And as the table shows, chronic absenteeism by grade level, and shows the number of students who are chronically absent in each grade level between 24 and 25. Okay, and we want to move on now to behavior and suspension, which will be Lindsay.
This is the welcome to my world slide. So you can see in grades 5 through 8 last year, most of the incidents were recorded in Infinite Campus. The lower grades used a Google form and then just entered the really critical incidents in Infinite Campus. So that's one of the reasons for so many behavior incidents in grades 5 through 8. So I do want to draw your attention to quarter 3 in grade 5 because 96 behavior incidents in one quarter for grade 5 is quite high. There was a staffing change that dysregulated a lot of students. Students need consistency, they need familiarity, and that was one of the reasons. There are other reasons, but for the protection of the students involved, I don't want to go into any more details. And then the suspension data, in grades 6 and up, it's higher, and in grade 5, it's a little lower. In order to send a child home from school in grades 5 and below, it needs to be a significant safety issue. We don't want to send them home at all, but in order for us to send them home, especially in the younger grades, it really needs to be a significant safety issue. And I have moved that philosophy onto grades 6 through 8 this year as well. And we try to do 3 days tops in the younger grades. That just gives us enough time to make sure that when they do return to school, that we have programs in place to help them be more safe. We are also trying to adequately plan some restorative justice, which I'm really pleased that you guys went to a conference on restorative justice measures, because personally I really want to pick your brains on that. And I have one more note here. Oh, the Google Forms for minor behaviors. Yeah, so that's, and now that is grades pre-K? Pre-K through 5. And then grades 6 through 8 this year are being entered in Infinite Campus. So we're hoping for that data to go down.
Yeah, and there's a lot to celebrate. I think what I really want to take a moment to celebrate is the amount of targeted focus on these identified areas of need. One of the things I really appreciate from Nikki and Amy is giving a really clear focus in regards to where we need to direct our focus, our attention, our energy. That has been shared with staff, and we're at a point where staff is 100% buying in. It's the discussion now about how can we effectively support this process, especially at the assistant principal level, acknowledging and recognizing that this is challenging work, this is hard work, but the benefit is huge. And really our responsibility at our level is looking at how we support that process effectively. Examples of this include the amount of staff that has attended letters training, who really identifies and recognizes the work that has to take place there for the science of reading. The fact that that work in and of itself is beyond a one-day PD. It is PD opportunities with extension of completing activities at home to continually hone your craft. And the fact that with letters, it is not a program. It is a practice, it is a mindset, it is a mentality, and there's that buy-in that we see across the board. Other things that jump out to me are things such as the collaborative and proactive solutions with Ross Green and how we look to effectively problem solve and support our students. When we talk about things such as restorative justice and manners that we look to address behavior, looking at the piece of viewing all opportunities of problem solving with students, looking at being able to model the process of effectively problem solving and engaging in conversation with students. And we see teachers who are engaging in that process. We see at the administrative level engagement in that process as well. I'd also like to throw it off to Lindsay to share a couple of other things, especially at the middle school level.
We were talking earlier that not everything can be measured by data. There are a lot of anecdotal situations and collaboration going on at the middle level. For example, our BAR time, which stands for Building Assets, Reducing Risks, and all at 6 through 8. They have a day and a time set aside where that grade level can meet and really talk about one or two students and try to solve those problems, preferably before they get too big. And those conversations are really great, and admin is there, and guidance and social workers are there, and maybe 504 case managers are there, the nurse, right, if it's a medical issue, is there, and we really just, and we leave with action steps on how to help this child. I also am excited about our membership and Count Me In to help reduce the chronic absenteeism. For example, I was able to give out flyers at open houses, and parents could swing by and pick up a flyer. And for example, one of the flyers was about, morning routines, like how to improve your morning routine so that you can get your kids to school and get them there on time and have them stay. So I'm really excited about those two things. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Good job.
Oh, I'd like to pass it on to Mr. Clifford to talk about EHS.
Good evening. First, we'll start with the CNA goals for the year. Enhanced reading and math achievement, and through that implementing really instruction, so having our teachers concentrate on instruction. You heard Matt talk about the letters program and letters training, and our English department and social studies department started that a couple weeks ago. They're excited about that. Math scores in the math department, right now they're going through textbooks, and we want to revamp their curriculum starting next year, grades 9 through 12. Increased attendance, as you know, Mrs. Wright has been diving into that the last few years, which we've improved by 5% the last couple of years, and we hope to make that again this year. And then the MTSS system, implementing to address behaviors and social emotional needs of students. You'll see later on we went from 160 suspensions to 101 in 1 year, which is we're proud of that, and it has a lot to do with our MTSS program that we have. Literacy, looking at test scores. So percentage of students well below state expectation decreased from 15% to 11%, while those meeting or exceeding state expectations stayed steady at 69% versus 68%. And those are from last year, and those are the through year, so the sophomore students that took that test. FastBridge,
So our fast bridge numbers, so if you talk to our faculty and staff, they're not happy with them because of the fall to spring. And I don't think that that's gonna be a practice that is gonna happen year to year. I think one thing in reflecting, we take them at the end of September, and then we've been giving them the very end of May and sometimes into the beginning of June. And sometimes students, their concentration level is not real high at the end of May and into June, and I'm thinking that may be, part of the problem. So we're looking at having them take them in late March and early April, and then we'll see what our scores look like, once we do that. So we're just gonna change the testing time a little bit in the spring and see what we come up with numbers. But 54% of the students are grade level or higher. And the math in the through year, so 54% of the are at grade level or above. Percentage of students below grade level declined from 39% to 26%, while those meeting or exceeding expectations increased from 42% to 54%. And those are good hikes for us. I like those numbers. And this is the fast bridge for math, kind of the same thing as reading. A little bit of a dip from fall to spring. Last year's academic data, and this one, so I always look at the failure rate, so the maroon at the bottom, that's the first thing that I look at. And the last probably 5 or 6 years for the year, they've always been around 10% or lower. And that's where you want to be, hopefully in the single numbers. These are up a little bit, 26%, 21%, 20%, and 16%. I'm not really sure why that is, and I don't think that'll be a norm either. We did go from, we did have an 8-period class, or 8-period day. That may have something to do with, there were some seniors that didn't need to pass a class, or some juniors that weren't counting on passing a class and just kind of, I'll just let it go and feel it. We felt that during summer school for sure. So I think when we're back, we'll see where we are this spring, in the failure rate, but they're a lot higher than I want.
Dan, sorry.
Yeah.
Is this if you don't pass one class, or what does this data?
Yeah, at least one failure or more.
Okay.
Yep, sorry.
Thank
Yep, at least one failure or more. So 26.11% of the freshman class failed at least one class. Yep. Attendance, chronic attendance rate decreased from 44% to 49% to 44%. So as you see, it's going down, and that's what we want. And like I said, Mrs. Wright is on that every single day with teachers, with students, with documentation, and I know that will come down even more this year. Suspension data I talked about. So 2 years ago, we had 160 suspensions. Last year, there's 101. So that is much better, and that's part of the MTSS program being introduced to our district and to our teachers. There's really no numbers that really stand out to me other than the total of suspensions. Celebrations. Some quick things just going through. So, fourth door, last year graduated 12 students, which is terrific. First Academy, in its first year, graduated 9 students that were fully online. And that program is expanding every single week almost. The academies are up and running now. Last year was the second year for STEM and humanities. VPA right now have 10 students in the academy, and they're opening up applications for sophomores right now, along with the other academies. STEM Academy has 11 students, and humanities has 5 right now. And those are just juniors and seniors. And like I said, enrollment's opening up for the sophomores. And I really love anytime you can have a graduation rate around 90, That's successful, I feel. Okay, in the last 3 years, so 2022-23, we're at 93.23%. 2 years ago, 23-24, 92.5%. Last year, we're at 90.23%. And those are good numbers, and that's what we want to keep it right around 90. The two previous were 89 and 88, so we're still right around 80, right around 90 the last 5 years. Current enrollment classes, we have 14 right now, and we're looking to expand that every year, which we have. 11 AP classes in person, and if you count online, then it's endless with the AP classes. And the big thing I think with the graduation rate is the teaming. I'm a big believer that's a big part of it. As you remember, 11 years ago, our graduation rate was at 77%. And we had freshman academy, but then we added sophomore, and then we added junior and senior teaming. And I think that's a big reason why it's around 90%. We just have an adult on a student, all 4 years that they're there, and students work hard at it, teachers work hard at it, and it's been a joint effort to get our graduation rate up there. Any questions? Good? Sorry. It's a bagman's neck for special ed.
All right. Thank you. I'm so excited to present a little data on special education with everyone. So our goal was to reduce our critical behavior incidents, and I'm happy to report that we really had a significant decrease in that. Our critical incident reports went down by double digits. And I just wanted to quickly tell you what the definition from the MDOE is for physical restraint. And that just means a personal restriction that immobilizes or reduces the ability of a student to move their arms, legs, or head freely. And then a seclusion is just the involuntary isolation or confinement of a student alone in a room or a clearly defined area from which the student does not feel free to go or is physically denied exit. Of course, for restraints and seclusions, we only use those when every least restrictive intervention is not working, and it's to stop imminent danger of serious physical injury to that student or other people, whether that be other students or other staff members. So we do not use these lightly. So every time there's a critical behavior incident using a restraint or seclusion or both, we have a critical incident report. And so that's where this data is coming from. But as you can see, this was a major focus of our special ed department last year. And so a lot of the key strategies we used worked. So we had a clearer definition of seclusion by Drummond and Woodsum. We were just extra cautious of documenting seclusions, but Drummond and Woodsum advised us that some of our documentation, it was great documentation, but it didn't warrant a critical incident report. So we took their advice, so that dropped some of the seclusions. And also we increased our number of safety care trained staff across all the buildings, EEMS, EHS, HCTC, because we used to just safety care train just our behavior room and life skill rooms. But then we realized, if we really want to reduce our restraints and seclusion, we need to teach those proactive de-escalation strategies more and more. So we have 63 trained safety care people in the district. We have 3 trainers. 2 of them are in the room right now, Matt and I. And we also hired our BCBA. And so our next steps, of course, this isn't enough of a decrease for me. So we want this next year to be even lower. But we're happy with the decrease from last year. And if you have any questions, I can always give more data too. And I'm going to hand this back over to Nikki.
So that was a quick drive-by of a lot of work that we did
Yeah.
last year. So as you can see, just in general, we reduced behavior incidents. We changed our mindset on how to deal with behaviors and suspensions, really have worked on a proactive and growth mindset approach. District-wide, we really made a dent in our chronic absenteeism, which is something that we can't fully control, right? But we have tried to create messaging and work with partnerships and look at data. We're really proud of the numbers that decreased with chronic absenteeism. And then also, as you saw, we are moving the needle on academics, and there's a lot of work that goes along with that. We're not just, although we do report on reading and math, this is not just those sets of teachers. For example, as Mr. Clifford mentioned, the whole social studies department is taking letters in his school. We often talk with science teachers about how they're, using writing strategies in class. We do a variety of things across the grade levels and content areas to really start improving our practice. We have great groups of what we call specialists. The physical education and health teachers are digging into their content and how they can strengthen their practice. The art teachers are doing the same thing. We've really tried to increase the mindset for professional improvement and provide really high quality opportunities for that, both within our district and outside of our district. A lot of that was benefited by our strategic use of our federal funding that we are lucky to have. But it's all things that we are significantly proud of. Again, here it states we're a work in progress, and the more we learn about, the more we want to, do the next steps. And that is I will admit, it's sometimes an overwhelming feeling because we've made progress, but we're like, oh my goodness, we've got this to do and we want to do this next, and we need to focus on that. But overall, I really feel, and Mr. Wibberley mentioned this, we have essentially 100% buy-in, and that is not that easy to get when we're talking about really shifting a district's work and mindset over a very short period of years. There's been a lot of change for people, and it could have been very easy for all of our staff or some of our staff to kind of hold the brakes and wait for change, for something else to change or to be overlooked, that they weren't doing something or digging into something or participating in something. But people are really joining in. They're excited about it. They're sending notes of appreciation to their administrators and all the way up. I got a very nice email tonight from a teacher who is participating in letters and essentially talked about how it's completely changed their practice. And they're, for the first time, sitting in meetings that they know exactly how to proceed with, for example, a special ed student and how to help them with their reading knowledge and how they can work that into their high school classroom, which is not easy. We haven't always had high school teachers who know how to instruct reading. They often work through content, but in many years past, we haven't had a lot of upper grade teachers who know how to really give those strategies for students to learn how to read, but that is where we're at, and our staff is really rising to the occasion, and that is something to be very proud of. I think that is it.
That is it. So certainly want to give the board a chance to ask questions, but I kind of want to close things out by saying how extremely proud I am. It is not easy for administrators to be vulnerable and transparent and say the good and some of the challenges publicly. As you know, historically, data is not something that we have consistently looked at and used as a tool to set goals and inform instruction, and I'm really proud of the growth of our leadership team and really starting to get better and better at that. They get better at this every year, I feel like. The report that you have in your folder is 26 pages. It was a lot of work, a lot of effort, as were the slides. So a lot of really hard work and labor of love from our educational leaders in our buildings to put this together. And really great commitment to setting goals the right way through a comprehensive needs assessment process, which is how we receive our title funding. And then really attention to monitoring those goals over the course of time, so that we can really see how we are changing and growing. Fastbridge was a big lift for staff last year, to do that for the first time and really start looking at the data. I think this year, and as they get better at utilizing it and seeing its capabilities, I think that data will get better and better if they really start to use it as a tool to progress monitor and help them with planning their instructional practices on a day-to-day basis. But this was the first true full year we had that. So I think that's another great data point for us to have as we measure students. So happy to have you ask questions if you have any. It's a lot. It's a lot, which is why we will do Hancock County Technical Center and Adult Education another time.
Right.
But if you have any questions or comments, I want to give the board a chance to do that.
I have a comment. So I just want to recognize that it takes a long time from when you put different programs or curriculums in place to actually see the progress and the growth that comes from that. So I just want to say that, and also, I mean, I've been around in this system for a long time, and I don't think I've ever felt like we have been in a place like we are now. I feel like we are in a really great place, and we are growing, and we are moving in the right direction. So thank you for your
Thank you.
leadership.
Thank you.
Everyone in this room. Thank you.
I have a question about the relationship between suspensions and chronic absenteeism. Do suspended students count as absent?
Do our attendance gurus in the room? Look at Mrs. Wright.
Out of school counts as absent, in school counts as present. It's absent excused if they're out of school, but it does count against their absences. Am I right, Mrs. Wright?
Everything counts against them except being present.
Yeah.
So even, so an out-of-school suspension, things like field trip, internship, work study, whatever you might be assigned to for learning, even like leaving on a school activity to go to the jazz auditions or to go
That
to
doesn't
a soccer
count.
game, right? You're still involved in the community, and so that counts as being present. We do a lot of work on
Yep.
our codes to
Mhm.
correct that, actually.
Yep.
And that's the difference between chronic absenteeism and truancy.
I should get you up to the
Yeah, I was
podium.
gonna say, Mrs. Wright.
If you're gonna,
I was going to summarize it, and then
I
we're
thought-
past the point of summarizing.
I thought we were asking a yes or no question, but now you're giving a speech.
So truancy is 10 unexcused absences, and those do not have to be consecutive.
Uh-huh.
It can be like 7 consecutive, or it's 10, and that's for like, is that 6th grade up, I think,
Mhm.
okay? But chronic absenteeism counts everything, even if it's absent excused, that counts against you anyway. And that's where we get into things like vacations or college visits and things like,
Yep.
all valuable. not-
Homesick.
But that still counts
Right.
against you,
Right.
so.
So the field trips, the state, jazz festival, that's not absent.
That,
But
that now, we have that noted now to count as present,
Right.
I think
But when
it
a
should
student
be.
is suspended, that counts as.
out of school. In
Out of
school,
school.
it counts as present, because they're in the building
Right,
and
yeah.
they get all their services
So-
and everything, so, yeah. Yeah.
So lowering the rate of, the number of suspensions will help improve our numbers on chronic absenteeism.
And for the high school anyway, I just lumped them all together. Some of those are in-school suspensions. So they
Okay,
didn't actually count against us.
right.
Right.
But the out-of-school suspensions,
Yes.
we can reduce that number.
Yes.
We'll have better attendance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. That was helpful to know that.
And just a note for everybody else listening, the magic number is 18, correct? So if you're present the whole year,
If you're enrolled.
if you're
the entire
generally
year.
present the whole year, if you miss 18 or more days, then you are considered chronically absent.
Yeah,
So
because that's 10%.
Right.
of the days that you're supposed to be in school, and it's 180 days that, or 100,
Right. Yes.
that you're supposed to be in school, so.
So if you attend less days than that, because of one reason or another, we're talking about 10% of what you actually attend.
Okay, great. Any other questions, comments
I
from the
just
board?
comment, I appreciate all the work everyone does, collecting, compiling, presenting. You all explain it and present it so well that I don't have a lot of questions, so I appreciate all the work.
Thank you.
Comment on the Count Me In. I went to a thing with them, and they are we like involved in like their classroom like boxes too? Like they'll reward your classrooms with things, they'll help you, and like it's seemingly like that was like a whole thing because I wrote that down. I'm like, oh, that's fun, because they were like, not a lot of people actually do that, so check into that because that might help with some.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they'll, it said, they're challenges for attendance, and like they'll help you with like, you know, your prizes and things like that, and or like reward the school, you know, with things, they'll like help with that. And they said very few like ask them to do that, but that's like a statewide thing, I guess. And what else was I gonna say? And they did bring up, which, you know, I know in this world, right at this time, we do not need more coordinators, but they did mention an attendance coordinator that kind of does take some stuff off from, you know, all the rest of the admin. And I understand that that is, and as do they, that that's an expense, of course. But in saying that, they did say, if you think about it, the argument can be if the attendance for that student actually helps them improve their test scores and whatnot, to get them off perhaps their IEP, their 504s, that costs money. That's costing us money, like in our special ed department. So therefore, that could, if you get off enough kids, that could help fund your attendance coordinator. So I mean, like, you kind of have to think about things in like a roundabout way, if we can just kind of shift some of these kids and where they are by having them actually be at school and improving their, you know, arrangements. So
Yes.
it's just something to think about.
Because chronic
We've talked about
absenteeism impacts our community, not
course.
just our school or our data, which it does, and we get judged on that data at the state level. But it impacts our community if our students aren't coming to school, you know, especially if it's at any age. But, you know, in the data that we presented to you, we went in the wrong direction for grades K through 4, for example. And so if we don't have students coming to school as much as they should be in the grades K through 4, they're missing a lot of important foundational skills. It doesn't matter what grade level you are, right? If you're missing a lot of high school instruction, that is going to impact our community because our students may not get their diploma or they may not be able to read properly. I mean, all of those pieces, there would be a price to pay for services that we're a part of, or, you know, a coordinator that we get, but in the end, the more kids we can get to school every single day, that's benefit, positive, money in the bank for all of us in our broader community, for sure.
I mean, and I think it's showing, obviously, that with our attendance, that like some of the interventions and whatnot that we're doing are working, but like really ask yourselves, are they? Do you know what I mean? And if you're not seeing that, then like make changes and try to do like other things. Don't keep like spinning the wheel of like, well, this is what we're doing, this is what we were told, this is what we should try. Like if it's not, like maybe try to like think outside of, you know, where we're at and change it up just to see if we can get improvement. But well done, thank you.
Yeah, very well done. Thank you all.
Okay,
Is that it?
that is it.
Okay, before we end, could I just send a reminder out to anyone watching this remotely that next Tuesday is Election Day. There's 3 council seats on our municipal ballot and 2 school board seats, and there's also a couple of statewide referendums. So Tuesday, you can vote early. Before then, you can register day of if you're not registered. But it's an important election, and I hope everyone will go to the polls or turn in their ballot one way or the other. All right.
Well,
Thank you
thank
all.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.